Marilla from Brazil, Scott in Louisiana, near Baton Rouge, Toronto, John, Toronto, Divine, you're in the Philippines, yep. This is a kind of a program that appeals worldwide because AI is such an important part of our lives and it's going to affect us globally. So glad to see people are joining from all corners of the world. So starting in just 30 cents here. And when we do get started, if you have questions for Eric, please place them into the Q&A of the Zoom chat, or not the Zoom chat, the Zoom Q&A. The chat will sometimes get a little crowded, and it's much easier for us to find the questions when they're in the Q&A. So, see, it's time for us to begin. So, we'll begin our presentation and introduce Eric. And welcome to this session on why you need AI for decision making for business strategies and applications. And my name is Stuart Creek. I am with Simplilearn. We are a delivery partner with Wharton Online for this program. Here with Eric Hamberger, who I'll introduce in a moment. And we're going to be asking some questions about you along the way. Toward the end, we'll be asking some poll questions, so keep an eye out for those. We'll be talking today about the role of AI in business, why people at the senior levels of management and the executive suite, C-suite, need to understand the technology and how it will impact their organizations. Then we'll talk about what this particular program offers and how it helps to get you future ready. And I'll share with you information about enrollment, including a bonus offer that you receive for being here. So welcome, Eric. This just has a brief 2-bullet introduction of you as the managing director of Wharton Online and the founding director of Wharton Live. If you'd like to tell people a bit more about yourself, please go right ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Stuart, and welcome everybody. Appreciate you carving out time in your day, whether that's the evening, the early morning, or wherever we might find you here today. These things are always, if you've ever put your intro on a slide, right? It can be a little embarrassing of sorts. So I am the founding managing director of Wharton Live, which was a new business enterprise here at the Wharton School aimed at bringing synchronous virtual programs at scale. And I've been doing that for the last couple of years. The last time Stuart hosted one of these sessions was with my longtime colleague and kind of Wharton legend, Don Huseman, who just retired a few months back. And I had the opportunity to work with Don for the last couple of years and have taken over his stead as Wharton Online. We've combined some teams. But prior to that, I was the assistant dean of graduate business at a Philadelphia college nearby here to Penn. And I've really been in online education for the last 20 years. I teach online programs myself as an adjunct professor. I should clarify, I don't teach in this program, but I do oversee the entirety of the Wharton Online team. And that includes the production and facilitation of this program and also our relationship with Simplilearn. So, you know, a little bit of, I think, background on Wharton Online as a business unit and as sort of a institutional cornerstone here at the Wharton School is that, you know, probably about 15 years ago, give or take, our provost had asked that we get into the MOOC space. And we helped facilitate that, but a lot has changed since those early days of massive open online courses. And, you know, we've diversified our online offerings. half the standing faculty at the Wharton School have taught in Wharton online programs, and we're really excited to bring to bear some of our heaviest hitters in this program in particular. I think we've got 7 at last count, and you can see those in the program brochure, which I'm sure many of you have taken a look at. This program itself, how to make sense of AI as both the resource to manage, say, as the general manager of a business, and also as an opportunity to guide your organization kind of around and across the learning curve into what is emerging as a new set of technologies that are augmenting our decision-making process. So when we think about data driving the economy, you see here on the screen in front of you, what we've been suggesting is that AI is such a fast-moving field that organizations need to take sort of a portfolio approach to build capacity, all right? Build capacity within your organization to use data in their structured forms and to experiment with AI to analyze the unstructured data, okay? Data that grows and accumulates amongst our respective data houses, 80% of which, approximately speaking, of course, is unstructured. So AI essentially enables us to mine that data in search of the gold that's really buried there, right? And these technologies allow us to test the hypotheses of our business and also to manage in uncertain environments, which I would hazard to guess many, if not all of us, are operating in right now. And emerging from COVID, things like global conflicts, fear of recession, so many other factors, largely of which we have little to no control over, still influence our deliberative process when it comes to decision making. Whatever we can do to bring data to better test these hypotheses and the decision making options that sit before us, the better the decisions that we make will ultimately be. So when I think about a chart that Stuart and I have taken a peek at, which I think is on the next screen here, is produced by McKinsey. TCS has also produced an iteration. Creating these kind of analyses, they call for people that sort of stand between the business models that have been developed and leveraged by the administrative leaders, say in and around the C-suite, and data scientists on the other side. This program in particular is something that's not intended to be, say, engineering in focus. Instead, it provides this sort of central column that you see here in the middle of the screen. Think broadly about general management, for example, which in one respect is why this program, I think, has such blanket appeal and why we've got such a diverse audience, geographically speaking, that we already established. That through the exploration of both structured and unstructured data, you can literally translate that information that is coming out of our data warehouses into a forecast or a decision-making model that helps inform the decision-making process across multiple levels of what we might call the management ecosystem of your organization, okay? Really, if you think about where you are today in contrast to where you will be in completion of this program, picturing yourself as understanding enough about AI and machine learning technologies that are currently maturing before our very eyes, and then sort of apply that understanding in advising senior leadership at your organization to form questions that data can help us answer. All right, so it's really that mid to senior level role that will analyze cases covering companies at the leading edge of extracting critical information from the loose data available to them amongst the vast repositories of unstructured data that are out there. That's some of the things that you'll be taking a look at in this program with our faculty. And I should say that in that pool of unstructured data, we're talking about, I don't know, email, voicemail, video, audio, web purchasing traffic. These things inform customer profiles, right? And they reveal how we're sort of customers are exploring and ultimately finding their way to make a purchase. All of these data sources are frankly different than when, I don't know, I think about myself as a young consumer, say 20 years ago, when we only had things like tabular data, right? Think relational databases, think spreadsheets that were organized by rows and by columns, right? That were applied in more sort of direct ways to predict and drive forecasting models that were frankly, in a world of far more uncertainty. Back then, we did things like scenario planning, sensitivity analyses. Now, and what we talk about in part in this program is kind of the optimization of models that emerge with clear choices and expected forecasts. In the old days of relational like database management systems and these various forms of structured data, I mean, this isn't our parents' course though, really, right? This is a new day, and we all know employers and top level leaders have an expectation, dare I say, demand, maybe, that their top people understand these technologies and are able to leverage their full capabilities. All right. It may be one of the reasons why you find ourselves with us here today and considering this program. These new technology tools, they really allow us to mine this unstructured data in very productive ways. And that's another fundamental cornerstone of this course, I think. So it impacts every business. This course is going to show you a number of examples, okay, that come from organizations that have successfully applied AI and machine learning technologies to develop new sales and marketing strategies is one example. We'll be looking at the work that's been done by modern marketing firms to develop personalized recommendation engines, explore other marketing strategies that are informed by kind of large transactional and analytical databases that are really informed by large pools of customer behavior that kind of augment our data pools. And you'll be looking at large financial applications, like things like midstream identification of patterns of customer consumer behavior that suggests fraudulent activity, maybe for companies that are processing e-commerce platforms or transactions, I should say. This enables the potential for intervention, right? To take steps that assure the security of transactional security for transactions that might initially appear suspicious. Let's see, what else might we be covering? We call on our incredible faculty that are associated here with Wharton's People Analytics Initiative. Their conference actually was hosted right here in person in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago, to examine how AI and machine learning can be used to successfully navigate the kind of task of all tasks, informing your decisions on hiring, your decisions on promotion, your decisions on performance management. I'm actually in the performance management cycle myself, right? And we all know the more direct reports you have, the better you want to be at this. AI can play a strong role here, but let's remember too the ethical considerations when it comes to the management of people, right? That critical aspect is not overlooked here. And it is one that I hope all of us take really seriously. One thing I was thinking about, Stuart, I think you had done an interview some time ago with some fintech firm called Zest Money.
Yep, that's true. We had a webinar with the founder of Zest Money, and one of the interesting things that she explained was that their firm could not exist without AI because it's one of the many fintech firms, microcredit firms that makes instant decisions for a consumer at the point of sale. If you are considering to making a purchase and you want to finance it through Zest Money, when you tell Zest Money, this is the item I'm going to buy, this is how much I want to spend, they can access with your permission all of your not only financial records, but other records about your behavior as a consumer, and then make an instant decision about whether to extend credit, by how much. So that can't be done by humans. Underwriting credit by humans was a process that would take days, sometimes weeks, when people would send in applications for things like a credit card. With the application of AI, that amount of data and the number of sources of data that the decision engine can access much, much broader than any human being could access, and it's done almost instantaneously. So they can make better decisions about credit worthiness of consumers that than any human being could and with better breadth and depth so that they can consider things that might otherwise be left out of a credit decision, that might otherwise not be considered to let you get the credit you need.
Stuart, thanks for bringing some color to that, because it brings us up to that question again of ethicality. Like, how does your model function in a way that's inclusive, right? What does it take into account to determine credit worthiness? How do we determine credit risk or maybe a lack thereof? So if we think about more broadly, like G20 countries, even here in the United States, people that lack FICO scores, as an example here, they can't qualify for loans. And if you can't qualify for loans, this works to sort of exacerbate the inequality systems that we see here. The differences between the people that have and the people that don't, and then can perpetuate itself generationally, right? Could we not use these technologies like Stuart was just talking about via that interview with Zest to think about what we can do to leverage new forms of assessing credit worthiness, right? Maybe not seen so much through the eyes of these outdated legacy systems and applications. This is some of the things that you can start to explore in your own mind and also in the application of content through this program. So this kind of brings us to this idea of a well-rounded understanding of the field, the name of the screen you see in front of you right now, to prepare yourself for this new decision-making arena. Okay, this course helps individuals gain the kind of sort of like tactile experience or exposure to the terminology, the nomenclature, as we would say, that the engineers and the data scientists use in building and developing AI and machine learning projects in, say, your respective company or organization. This course enables you to level set with an understanding of these technologies. We ask questions like, what constitutes big data? What constitutes artificial intelligence? What is machine learning? And how is it conceived relative to one other example, like relative to company size? What does it mean for, say, a small firm and how they might pursue outsourced solutions on the open market? What about a big firm and their application development group or team? So if we bring it back full circle to people management, legitimate concerns over HR applications, there are myriad of corporate organizational risks here, right? That can be associated with AI. Algorithms have the unfortunate potential of being just as biased as individuals when it comes to things like hiring, things like promotion, performance assessment. This course is going to compel you to kind of take a big step back to realize ways in which AI applications can implement and spread bias in an undetected way. Or it can be, in some circumstances, less than transparent in processes that utilize various data points to inform that algorithm to make a particular recommendation, okay? These are critically important issues for general management. And this is perhaps even more critical for those working in, if you find yourself in the nonprofit or government sectors, okay? This may be a good time, Stuart, to pivot to our poll.
All right, and I'll be glad to do that. We'll be talking about your level of experience and I'm sorry, before we do that, what's stopping you? You're here for this webinar because you're interested in AI and you're considering this type of an educational program to get, as Eric said, level set on understanding what it is and what it can do for your organization. What has stopped you up till now from becoming part of a program like this? I'll give you just another about 10 seconds. You can pick more than one of these issues. We'll close this poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit that submit button. So as you can see, the first two of these are the ones on most people's mind here today. Finding a program that is comprehensive and finding a program that gives you practical examples to work from. And so we'll talk a bit about how that gets addressed in this program. Move on. Eric, did you want to take over, or shall I go ahead with this?
Well, maybe I'll just offer a couple quick notes on practical exposure.
Yeah.
Given the popularity of that response. One of the things that is different, I think, for Wharton programming is that we don't focus on curricula or development of what you might refer to as things that are settled. I remember Don used to call it settled science. For example, I'm not recommending you enroll in this program because by the end you're going to start coding in R. Okay. This is not necessarily what you might see in a continuing studies boot camp, so to speak. We at Wharton Online draw on the top academic minds in the world in this field of study to analyze, to research topics that are unsettled. And as we might have said, we're sort of like setting a table. Where on one side, we have the top minds from academia. That's we provide here at the Wharton School. And on the other side, we have all of you, top minds from business. Okay. My expectation is that when we bring all of you together, we start to find new bodies of knowledge. We find new conclusions about things that are unsettled. And we take that knowledge with us into our work environments and we apply them and we find greater success. Okay. We're of the opinion, I think, here at the Wharton School that new knowledge is cultivated by this bringing together of both sides of that table. Okay. I think that's really exciting, personally. And I think that's one of the big draws of programs like this and why this partnership with Simplilearn's allowed us to do something more dynamic. Okay. Faculty bring research from the organizations they are actively consulting with, and they use that data to conduct their research. And we hope that you bring into that work and you inform it with your own practical knowledge, your own context. We've got a global audience here. That's fantastic. Think about the people that you'll get to interact with in this program. And you'll gain the ability to kind of test hypotheses together. And this combination of intellectual power covers a variety of cases across a diverse set of industries in this curriculum. And it starts to manifest itself in live discussions and interactions. So when I think about where we got to that idea of practical exposure, Stuart, I think this program is really a differentiator in that space. Oh, Stuart, you're muted.
Apologies. Thank you for that. The distinction you made between a program that teaches AI engineering versus a program of this type, which teaches you how to understand AI in the context of using it for your organization's decision making. That's a very important distinction. And so as you said, the practical experience is going to be drawn from the examples the faculty will bring from their actual work with people out in industry. So
yeah,
we
Stuart,
talk about
actually, sorry,
this
reminded me of something else I think is relevant here. I spent a number of years overseeing an entire master's degree in business analytics. And one of the things we would talk about often was the practical skills that you gain are really important, but they're also dated. This is an industry that is changing so dynamically and so fast. Consider the idea that this is a program that is going to give you decision-making power, right? Something that'll still be relevant when we've moved beyond. Those are skills that you keep with you, right? Those are skills that you continue to take forward even as the industry continues to change. And I think that's another important piece of this that shouldn't get lost as we think about the actual platforms that we talk about.
Yeah, and here's a piece of perspective on the development of AI, how slowly and quickly it has gone in both dimensions. The Turing test was posited by Alan Turing back in the 1940s, 1950s, where he said that you would be able to call a system artificially intelligent if you could have a conversation with it and not know that you were talking to a machine. In the 1960s, some researchers attempted to do this with a program called ELIZA, which mimicked a psychoanalyst. You would ask it questions and then it would respond to you. And the question was whether you could tell you were talking to a machine or an actual psychoanalyst on the other end of a teletype. Didn't work all that well to pass the Turing test. Over the years, this type of thing has happened and developed chatbots. Now, the latest thing that we're hearing about, of course, is ChatGPT and its equivalents, which a lot of ways do reach the level of passing the Turing test, where you can ask it to create something for you that seems like it was written like by a human being, or you can interact with you in ways that you would expect a human being to interact with you. So concepts in AI have been around for decades. Implementations of those concepts keep changing year by year, and sometimes change comes at a very rapid pace. But understanding the fundamental concepts and being able to adapt them to whatever new technology emerges is the kind of skill set we're trying to build here with this program. And it's a 3-month program. It's fully online. Participate in online discussions and you access other materials on the online platform. So you don't have to um, uh, travel anywhere. You don't have to acquire any other specialized software. It's through any device that you have that has a web browser on it. And you can, other than the scheduled meetings with the faculty members, classes with the faculty members, you can access the other material anytime that you have time in your schedule. At the end of it, you receive the certification that you've completed the program. You've done a lot of real world business case study discussions with the faculty members who have taken you through these examples and discussed with you in depth enough so that you have a good understanding, grasp of what their implications are for your business. And all done through live online master classes with Wharton professors along with the other materials. So, you touched on it earlier, Eric, but if you could, again, talk about why Wharton is really one of the best places in the world for this type of inquiry.
I was at a conference in Orlando, Florida, back in October, all for, say, CHRO type participants. And over again, I had people come up to me, Stuart, and they kept saying, "Oh, I'm such a fan of this professor," or I'm such a fan of that professor. And it happened over and over again, and it was never the same name twice. It was fascinating to me. And a good reminder of the research and intellectual power that this institution brings to bear is arguably the best business school in the world. The interesting thing that I think differentiates Wharton Online and this program with Simplilearn from other executive education programs that are out there in the marketplace is that we really only use standing faculty. These are tenured full faculty members that are well established in their fields, in many cases, the leader in a particular area. And that is absolutely true in this program too. We have actually 8 different Wharton faculty that bring their intellectual property and their expertise into this program. We're talking across various departments too: operations, finance, management, marketing, legal studies, and business ethics, who also happens to be one of the world's authority on blockchain, cryptocurrency, distributed ledgers. It's a really impressive group. And I think it's important for folks to know that differentiation, right? You're not getting into a program where the videos were facilitated by a very capable, but in often cases, an adjunct, an industry person. Those pieces of information can definitely be valuable. But when you're talking about a series of 8 different Wharton faculty, full faculty members bringing to bear their respective areas of expertise, I think you've got a pretty dynamic experience set for yourself.
Thank you. Unmuted myself. So this program is intended for people who are not necessarily technologists, but people who are at senior levels in their organizations or who interact with senior levels of organizations, for example, as consultants. And we talk about ideal candidates for this program. Did you have some comments on that, Eric, or shall I go through this? I think we're talking about C-suite executives certainly can benefit, senior executives below the C-suite who want to influence the direction of their business, their organization, business leaders and managers who need to make strategic decisions around AI. If you're at that level and you need to be able to apply AI to a problem or a strategic area in your organization, you need to have this understanding. And then people who want to just become more proficient and more knowledgeable about the area in their own right so that they can kind of build out their own toolkit for general management and understanding the technology impact for their organizations. Have I got that about right?
I think you do, Stuart. One of the words we often fall back to is translation, where you have the requisite knowledge, where you can speak the languages of both the engineers on one side and the C-suite executive on the other, right? And you can bring those things together where you start to have like capital T team, right? And you're level setting common language that everybody understands to actually get the right business solution.
Yeah. There's a certain kind of dysfunction that happens when that's absent, where as the management side, you have to take completely on face value whatever the technology side tells you because you don't have the infrastructure or the understanding of how that works to be able to evaluate what they're telling you. And this program is a way to combat that dysfunction, to give you the ability to say, okay, I understand what you're saying, and will that really work? Or is that really how long it's going to take? Or is that really the best approach? Because you'll have the understanding of the context that they're using, and you won't just have to take their word for it. So that's a great aspect of this program. We're going to run our next poll here. And this is just to give an idea of where you are in your career right now. Doesn't quite match the widget here, but yes. You answer according to what the widget's telling you. And we're interested to know if you're a student or if you're a senior level in your organization, somewhere in between. And I will close this poll in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And so the vast majority of our audience today are people who are senior in their organizations, for whom I think this program has the most benefit. Let's move on and talk about how this program prepares you for the goals that we've described throughout this webinar. You begin, it's built on a module by module basis, and it takes you through the different modules so that you have from each one the basis to do a more in-depth and valuable discussion in the next one. And that foundations of big data, AI, and machine learning are level setting for understanding what the terms mean, what the technologies are in a practical sense, so you get an understanding what they do, how they interrelate. because all three have distinctions, all three have interdependencies. This first module helps you with that. Then you'll look into applications within the marketing world, spend some time on that with the marketing faculty. Moving on then into the finance domain, and that gets into some more interesting technical and ethical issues as Eric discussed. And finally into resource management, which again touches on things that have to do with fighting bias, looking for deeper understanding of people's behavior so that you can make better decisions about your human resource management. And then finally into the economics and government space and looking at the issues of ethics, the issues of how you have to control this technology in order to make sure it's your servant and your master, and also how to deal with external factors that people will impose in terms of requiring you to manage this technology and govern it in a way that meets regulatory requirements, that meet business association requirements, insurance company requirements, all the other types of external organizations that apply, not least of which include the public and your consumer base. So at the end of this, you will receive your certificate. And along the way, you can take these master classes with the Wharton faculty, which are so valuable within this program, and recommend that you arrange your schedule to be able to take those classes. They do not, we call them electives, but they do not cost anything additional. They're included in the program. And they help you build to a successful conclusion. And the certificate attests by is a attestation by Wharton that you have successfully completed the program, that you've absorbed the concepts, and that you have this new set of skills and understanding to be able to navigate the world AI in business. As Eric mentioned, the faculty members involved in this program are really a powerhouse. You know these people much better than I do, Eric. Do you want to mention anything about this faculty?
I, you know, Stuart, we could have had our own session just on these 8 or just
Yeah,
on one at a time. I would just offer, having sat in the classroom with several of these folks, it's more than just being an expert in the field. It's knowing how to engage a room, whether that's a virtual environment or it's in a physical space. These folks know how to engage an audience. They know how to captivate your attention, and they know how to facilitate really robust dialogue. And I would say that is true for all 8 of these individuals, which is a rarity when it comes to programs like this that have multiple courses baked into an entire sequence. So I just kind of offer that if you've ever heard of any of these individuals before, or you may have even taken a singular module that they've produced elsewhere, I think you probably have seen and witnessed what I just offered.
thank you. So based on what you've heard so far from Eric and myself, I'm curious to know, are you interested in potentially taking this program? So this is not a hard and fast decision, but we'd like to find out your level of interest. Since it's a yes or no question, we'll just leave this open for another 10 seconds. Close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit the submit button. So roughly 2/3 of our audience today are interested. This is a good time for me to share with you the steps to achieve that. It's extremely straightforward. Again, as we're the delivery partner, you email to us at askus@simplilearn.net. and we review your prerequisites, a little bit about your work history and level of that you're at in your organization. Again, we're not testing you on technology knowledge because that's not a prerequisite for this course. Um, we'll send you your admission offer and let you know the next cohort actually starts in 2 days. Pricing here is given for North America and for India. You'll be able to look at local pricing in your country by going to our homepage for the program on our website. And what I'm going to do now is put that link into the chat. Excuse me as I copy that over. And that will give you local pricing. You can also ask that question of the learning consultant by reaching out to askus@simplilearn.net, and that email is also in the chat with you. And again, we have options for financing over time. We also remind you to ask your employer about tuition reimbursement. If you have that benefit at work, that's a great thing. We're mentioning a bonus discount offer for attending this webinar, and I hesitate to tell you what it is in this forum because we're looking at a worldwide audience. For the US, it's denominated in dollars. For the rest of the world, I think it's denominated in percentages. So do ask the learning consultant, but we will also be sending you a follow-up email that contains the amount for this offer. And this is a discount off of these fees if you begin the 20th April cohort. We ask you to do that quickly because in this type of a program, the cohorts have to be limited in size because of the level of interaction between the faculty and participants. We don't want to get so many people. This is not, as Eric alluded to before, the history of online courses started off with massively open online courses. This is not one of those. This is a more intimate colloquial or discussion type of arrangement, a seminar of type of arrangement, so that you need to be able to interact with the instructor and instructor with you. The faculty member has to be able to devote sufficient attention to people, and that limits the number of people who can take in any given cohort. Cohorts do start regularly, so if you are not able to start the 20th of April, you'll be able to find out from our learning consultant when the next one is. Again, do reach out to us and find out the answers to those particular questions. And then I'm going to ask you, for those of you who said you are interested, at what point would you like to start? Are you interested potentially in that cohort starting this week, or are you looking further down the road? I will leave this one open for about 15 seconds more. Numbers have stopped changing much, so I'm going to go ahead and close it in 3, 2, 1. Hit the submit button. That will share the result. And about 40% of you are either interested in starting on the April 20th cohort start or sometime soon thereafter. And for the people looking further down the road, do reach out to us at askus@simplilearn.net. We'll keep you informed about future cohorts, and we'll also be able to answer other questions you may have. And speaking of questions, this is a time for us to take some of your questions that may be in the Q&A here. So, so Bob asks, does SAS have analogous procedures to Python and R platforms? That's a pretty interesting technical question. I'm not sure that that's one we can answer for you here, but that is something Do you have a comment on that, Eric?
Now, this is where I defer to the actual AI and machine learning experts.
Yeah. Moreover, this is getting into the type of well, this is again something you would ask some of the faculty members, and you can ask us at simplylearn.net to get referrals for that. Do you have a practical example from your certificate that you can share showing a problem which AI solved? So this would be a question, Eric, if you know of the type of problem or case study that has been presented.
So it depends on which course you're going to be into, right? Because with the variety, it's going to be dictated by those fields. I also know that we are on a recorded session, and the faculty are and the school is protective of IP. So when you get in to see those specific examples, you'll know them when they're in front of you. That I can promise you.
I'm sorry for my cat just walking in front of my face. Um, uh, so one of the interesting things about this is that I spoke with you about Zest Money because that's on the record from the founder of Zest Money. But that's the type of case study that you would be looking at in terms of what was the challenge, what was the application of AI, and how would you approach a similar challenge in your organization? So that I would take the Zest Money example as a kind of representative of the type of discussion you'll have. But it won't be Zest Money. Thank you for this opportunity. Which programming language should we study? And that's a fascinating question because in this program, you're not going to be learning programming, you're not going to be doing programming. But if you are interested in programming languages, there are a number of programs that Simplilearn offers that go into the technology guts and the engineering side of AI and look at some of those. Generally, when you're looking into, Eric referred to, R and Python are important languages for data science, but then there are a whole host of other tools and platforms that build upon that use in building machine learning and AI solutions, like TensorFlow. And so I'd like to learn more about the topics. What will I learn specifically? How this program will, okay. So I think we've spoken about that, but you can go back through and talk about
that question
different modules.
Sorry, Stuart, that question actually came through right as you were getting into.
Uh-huh.
So the timing was actually probably perfect because you went right into that section at that moment.
Good. Yeah, you're going to specifically look at examples in marketing, in finance, in HR. And you're going to go deeper into the ethics and governance. So that I think answers that question. I'm going to look into the chat just quickly to see. Will you have access to alumni? A good question for you. How will participants in the program, will they be able to interact with people in the alumni network?
This program, I mean, certainly connects you to the people that you'll share the cohort with. I think we work with Simplilearn too to bring the broader community of learners that have engaged in this program together. But this is not a credit-bearing program for, say, a student that's matriculating toward a degree. So when we talk about our alumni networks, those are for people that formally enrolled, came here, right, and went through the entire process.
Yeah. Perez had asked in the chat, how large are the classes? Generally, cohorts range up to about 30 participants because, as I described earlier, you can't devote sufficient attention in a discussion of this type to more than that without shortchanging some of the people, not allowing them to get their interaction with the faculty members. So that's about the limit. Do individuals need programming experience? No, this is not going to be focusing on programming. This is focusing on business knowledge and business applications. Again, there are other options for people in the audience here today. If you're considering an AI engineering program, we can point you to some of those, but for the particular target audience of this program, which is people in management, people who are responsible for business strategy, this program is focused on those aspects. I think that's all the questions we have currently, so I'm going to move on to the final question I have for the audience. I want to thank Eric for being very patient. Hold on a second. All right. So this question is, do you need assistance to enroll? If you answer yes to this question, we'll make sure to reach out to you. And in addition, if you are interested in receiving, for some reason, the proof of attendance for this webinar, we'll be able to send you one of those if you answer yes to this question. So and we'll just leave this open for 5 seconds longer. 4, 3, 2, 1. So for those of you who answered yes, we will be contacting you. For those who answered no, you'll receive a follow-up email from us with a link to this recording, information on the bonus offer, and you can always reach out to us at askus@simplilearn.net. The QR code also takes you to the program page on our website. This is when I would like to, again, formally thank Eric for being here with us today and being very generous with his time and knowledge and taking us through the origins and purpose of this program.
Stuart, my pleasure. And I want to say thanks to you for hosting and for everybody dedicating some of their day to joining us. I really appreciate it, everybody.
We do want to thank you all in the audience, everyone worldwide, from, as I said, the 4 corners of the globe, and we will hope that we can see you in the Wharton Online and Simplilearn learning community. So we look forward to our future interactions. Thanks again for being here. That concludes our webinar for today.
Take care, everybody.